Hello, YouTube. I just want to have a share thought video about a fictional character that I liked a lot in a video game called Fallout 4. And the reason why is because this character basically reminds me of my personal journey of getting both red pill and having a series of reality checks in my personal life. And this character is very, very down to earth, pragmatic character, and this character is not entirely a bad guy. As a matter of fact, if you ever play the game and pay attention to this character background story, you will understand why he does the things he does. And it makes him very relatable. He's not, as I stated, he's not an evil person. He's actually somewhat a good person, but his action is very questionable. So he's one of those morally gray area type of person. But anyway, just for the sake of talking to him and sharing my thoughts, this character that you see here in the picture is a fictional character from a video game called Fallout 4. More specifically, from a DLC, an expansion pack called Nuka World. And this character's name is Porter Gage. A little bit of background about him. Porter Gage is basically a raider, and in Fallout 4, raiders are basically criminal gangs that prey on innocent people that produces, innocent hardworking people that basically wants to be left alone. But raiders, they basically attack those people just to get resource out of them. Basically, just like the name itself states, raiders. So they just basically raid settlements and small towns and cities, etc., etc. And Porter Gage, his background story is very, how do I say this? Both very sad, but at the same time, reasonably, um, I don't want to say relatable, but I want to say it makes sense. It makes sense why he does the things he does. In Porter Gage background story, he basically grew up in a farm of a family that were very self-efficient. However, one day in his childhood, the raiders basically threaten his family unless they don't give the resource that they wanted. And after years of seeing his parents being pushovers and not standing up to the raiders, Porter Gage decided to leave his family when he was young, and eventually he joined up uh, to the raiders when he was young. Now, this part of the story of him is very relatable to in real world children's who joins criminal organization, basically children's joining gangs, and this is a very relatable story. But what I love about Porter Gage is his mindset. When you play the game, Porter Gage, he's a very pragmatic, down to earth kind of guy. But most importantly, he strikes me as like this conservative individual. And what do I mean conservative individual? I mean Porter Gage, his both mindsets and ideas is very not just pragmatic, as I already stated, but he wants stability and good things for the long run. It's almost kind of like conservative ideas, if you know what I mean. And as I stated, guys, Porter Gage is not evil. In matter of fact, I do think that deep down he's a good guy, but the issue is that the reason why he joined up with the Raiders is because that was the only faction that was basically, how do I say this, exposed to him. And there weren't any other faction in the game that he could join up. Now, the reason why I love about Portuguese a lot in the video game Fallout 4 is because Fallout 4 came out around the time when people were getting crazy about politics. More specifically, the Donald Trump presidential campaign around 2016, which I will remind you guys that Fallout 4 did came out in 2016. So during that time, when politics are basically fresh in people's mind because of you know our president's controversy, a lot of people like to, how do I say this, compare Fallout 4 factions with real world politics. And to give you a good example, what I mean about that is, for example, the Minutemen is seen as libertarians. There's this faction that's called the Minutemen, as I stated. And the Minutemen is basically a civilian militia that protects people from raiders and other organization that wants to control over people. And the Minutemen is basically, how do I say this? They're definitely libertarian in the sense that they're all about freedom, but most importantly, they're all about protecting good people who just wants to be left alone and nothing else. And they promote self-efficiency, which is why the Minutemen is portrayed as basically not just civilian militia, but also farmers. And that being said, there's another faction called the Brotherhood of Steel. In that game, a lot of people like to compare the Brotherhood of Steel as being Nazis because the Brotherhood of Steel believes in human supremacy, which means that all other things that are non-human, they should be eliminated. So stuff like super mutant, synths, and definitely giant monster creatures like death claws, they all have to be exterminated. And it's only the purity of humanity that needs to survive. And just to be clear, guys, sorry if I skipped this information about Fallout 4. For those of you guys who don't know about Fallout 4, Fallout 4 is basically a futuristic sci-fi video game that the background story is basically is about the aftermath of a post nuclear war in America, where everything is decimated. And since I say it's retro sci-fi, it's based on science fiction from the 1950s style. So Fallout 4 is basically a post-nuclear war America where everything is destroyed and humanity is trying to rebuild civilization. So sorry if I didn't specify about that information, but yeah, that's what the game is about. Now, anyway, back to the topic. So there's another faction called the Institute, where people like to say that the Institute is more like communist or technocratic, if that makes any sense. And the problem with the Institute is that they have no moral compass for, well, sorry if I'm twisting my words, but the Institute don't have any moral compass at all. They're more, how do I say this, more sterile and more um more autistic factual, if that makes any sense. Like they have no emotions for their fellow human beings. And the railroad is basically the railroad faction is basically like the human rights advocate groups that they believe that all robots are sentient and they should have equal rights as human beings. So I hope you guys get the point. Basically, Fallout 4 is their faction is basically politically relatable to real world subjects. And if you watch any of Fallout 4 faction videos, you might hear the YouTubers mentioning about politics in real life. So anyway, and the reason why I love this character Portuguese is because out of all characters where they're very idealist and they firmly believe in their ideology. Portugage is basically the type of guy who is very, very down to earth type of guy. He's not, how do I say this, politically or idealist fanatic. He's not at all. He's very down to earth and very pragmatic individual. And what I love about Portugage is the fact that since he's been through a lot of bullcrap in his life, since he been through a lot in his early childhood, he understands how things work in the real world, and he understands how people can be, and when it comes to social issues. And Portugage, he strikes me kind of like a conservative, because Portugage expresses multiple times in the game how his idea of creating a stable empire, a raider empire, will help multiple generations to live peacefully and wealthy through the long run. And this sounds like very conservative, but at the same time, it's very practical and down to earth. It's hard for me to explain everything about the character, but I will leave a link in the comment section down below about him. But anyway, the reason why I want to talk about Portugage is because he's very relatable to me, since I personally have been through a lot of reality checks, and I've been swallowing a lot of red pill. And if you guys seen my previous video, I think you will understand why is that. So Portugage in the video game, he expresses his, how do I say this, disappointment about the other factions. My personal favorite one, it was his comment about the Minutemen, where Portugage expresses that he loves the Minutemen's ideas, but those ideas won't work in the real life because of human nature. And when you play the video game Fallout 4, you'll see how the Minutemen, they get basically screwed over because of corruption. And Portugage was very pragmatic, and how do I say this? He firsthand experienced corruption and human nature from his previous experience of joining up the raider gangs. So Portugage basically is a good guy. He wants the best for everyone. However, he also witnessed human nature and corruption firsthand. So his comment on the Minutemen was very pragmatic and realist. So that's one thing I love about him. And another thing I also love about is when he also commented on the Brotherhood of Steel, saying that they're no better than the actual Raiders themselves. And what's a shame about the game Fallout 4 is that in the DLC Nuka World, when you want to kill all the raiders and basically free all their slaves and all that stuff, you also have to end Portugage, the character himself, basically with everything. So you also need to kill him, and that sucks because a lot of fans of Fallout 4 loves Portugage because of his pragmatic and realist idea, and at the same time, many fans noted, if you read the likes and dislike, what Portugage reacts to. A lot of fans notice that Portugage isn't evil. He's not evil. In matter of fact, he's a good guy. But the issue is that, he joined the Raiders. So, factionally speaking, he's a Raider himself. But the game has this mechanic where the characters such as Portugage, because he's counted as he's known to be a companion where he gets to follow the player. they have this in-game mechanic called likes and dislikes, and you get to see what Portugage dislike and what he likes. And what Portugage dislike is straight up evil stuff, unless that evil is, being dominant, where the player is being a dominant person towards another, and that's what Portugage likes. And that's another thing what I like about Portugage is that he's very masculine. He's very, macho. So he likes it when the player is being masculine because it's part of the, raider culture. So basically, guys, that's all I gotta say about this character. The reason why I wanted to talk about this character is because this character, you could say, reminds me of myself and my personal journey of getting red pill and reality checks. And this character is, a very down to earth, pragmatic individual. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say. And I'm gonna leave a video down in the comments section for you guys to understand his whole character, and you guys will understand why I like this character a lot. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Bye bye.